Hey, I'm Allen Knowles out here for UTV On Demand. We're at the Honda R&D facility, and Honda's introducing a new side-by-side. We don't know anything about it because they haven't told us. We know there's something underneath there and probably something underneath there, and whether they're the same or two different, we have no idea. Doesn't look like either one of them are four-door, but we're going to get all kinds of info tonight, and we'll be releasing it soon, tomorrow afternoon. So follow us and stay on. We'll get you all the scoop on these things. When Honda drug us into the room, we had no idea what we were there. We knew we were there for a side-by-side, and we'd seen the spy photos you all saw, and there was two things covered. I mean, first they had us blindfolded to get there. They didn't want us to know where their R&D facility was, but we know now. And we get there and they pull the covers off, and there's two different cars. There's the R that's wide, there's the X that's a trail. That's what they went after. They went after a nimble, agile, probably more of an East Coast car, and then they went after a car to hit the big bumps and be super aggressive, and that's what you got, the R and the X, and they're both cool cars. They both have their place. I'll start giving you a rundown the stuff that I like. The first thing, I'll go to the motor. It's 999 cc's, twin cylinder. Twin is the way to go, I think, on a gearbox, because you need that bottom end torque so you can lug it off the corners. You know, CVT keeps up in the RPM, so they've done it right with a big twin. The other thing they did with this is it has a 270-degree firing order, which means the pistons aren't 180 degrees apart. They're kind of stacked, so it kind of runs like a big single. That's what it gives it, and that has an effect and some advantages on traction. So that's how they've set it up. And that's just, you know, this stuff that a lot of the parts of the motor came from the Pioneer. It's just the Pioneer motor. They've put it on steroids. A bunch of stuff they've done, I'll run through. And some of this stuff they've kind of taken some of the top end parts from the Africa Twin. So there's the genesis of the motor. The motor, compared to the Pioneer, again, it's based on that, but they've gone to bigger throttle bodies, bigger injectors. They've gotten more aggressive with the port layouts. The head's different, and they got more flow out of it. It's running a 10-to-1 compression ratio. Overall, I think we're going to find it's a mild tune. It does have a lot more camshaft than the two predecessors of the Pioneer or the Africa Twin motorcycle. So there's that, and they've given it a couple millimeters more lift and more duration, so, you know, helping with the power output and ramping up a bit for the type of vehicle that it's mounted in and the things it's supposed to do. It has the same camshaft layout as most of the motocross bikes. It's a 4-valve per cylinder head, and then it's got a single overhead cam. And the way Honda does it with their Unicam is they run the camshaft right over the intake valve, so it's got buckets and it just opens the intake valve itself, and then it has a rocker that reaches way across the exhaust valve. And that's a good setup. I've always liked that. Your older 4-strokes that were single overhead cam ran the cam down the middle, and you had rockers going both way, and then you're fighting rocker arm angle and all kinds of issues because it's so tight, so close together. It's not spread out enough to really do that well. So the setup that Honda has with that Unicam is a brilliant setup, works well. They put it on a lot of vehicles. We've seen it sustain a lot of RPM. We still race it and best in the desert with no issues, valve train issues. I'll run down the horsepower numbers, and again, these are claimed horsepower numbers. They're probably factual, I don't know. When the OEMs give us horsepower numbers, they give us crankshaft horsepower. When I test horsepower at CT Racing, we're to the ground. I'm testing what's getting delivered to the rear wheels. So it's hard to, it's always less than what they're claiming. Anyhow, the Honda's claiming 104 horsepower, and we'll compare that. Yamaha's claimed 112. It's comparable, and you might think it's lower. It may not be slower. A couple things about the way the Honda is. I think the torque numbers are going to be up higher, and so we may see it actually be competitive in a drag, or maybe even faster, being a 6-speed gearbox, so it can spread the load, work the power, work the torque. And the thing is torque pulls weight and torque pulls speed. And these are all big old cars. They're 1,500 pounds before somebody climbs into them, and it just goes uphill from there. And then you clamp on some cool parts that you bought from CT Racing, and it might get a little bit more when you get a cage and that kind of stuff on it. So the horsepower is in line with everything that's out there. It may run right with it. We got to find that out. They're claiming it does, but we got to go out and field test that. The engine on the Honda is rubber mounted, and it's got 4 rubber mounts, so it's kind of a substantial system. It's similar to an automotive style of motor mount. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with that. And that dampens a lot of vibration and keeps it smoother in the cockpit. It's a dry sump. A dry sump basically means that oil is getting pulled off and pumped all the way through the engine instead of slapping around and picking it up and throwing it around. And the dry sump is something you want on things that we drive aggressively and drive at all kinds of crazy angles and things like that might allegedly happen when I get turned loose in them. So the dry sump is the way to go, and that's what they've got. So I'm happy with that. Honda's DCT dual clutch transmission is unique to the market. It's got 3 modes. It's got sport mode, it's got normal mode, those are your auto shift modes, and the difference in those two is going to be shift points, how aggressive and how high up in the RPMs it is. And then it's got a full manual mode. So there's your settings, and then on top of that, you can have it in a sport or normal mode, and you can override that with the paddle shifters, upshift or downshift. Just you're coming into a corner and decide you want to set up and you want to take control, it lets you do that. So you just override it and go. Another thing that it has is the hill assist. Basically, it's got a button on the dash. You're stopping even up to a steep hill, 60 degrees. Punch the button. It'll hold it for 3 seconds for you while you just take off. That way you don't have to hold the foot on the brake and everything. You don't worry about it. Just do that. It'll hold the car from rolling back down the hill and get into the throttle and up the hill, and you go. So that's another unique setting on the Honda that might be unique and usable for some of you. The tranny was based off the Pioneer tranny, but compared to that, it's got an 18% lower reverse, probably good for us, and then it shifts 50% faster, much more aggressive. I think one of the unique features, and it's a big deal of this car, is that the transmission has a dual range, high and low range. I think that's going to be epic. Some of the other models out there with the transmission, if you're going rock crawling and stuff, you actually have to buy a different gear ratio set and change it. So there's quite a bit of work involved. This thing, pull a lever, you're in low range, you can run big tires, get over this stuff. And then the normal stuff, if you want, you can leave the big tires on and run it high and go about 280 miles an hour, or you can run like the stock size tires. But it's a big deal just being able to have a high and low range. I think that'll be impressive for all of you. We got some claims from Honda, and it's a theory right now, but we'd like to prove it because what they said sounds really good to me. Race motorcycle squads, everything my whole life. If you want to go faster, you land with the throttle pinned. I've learned in car racing and other side-by-side stuff, you land with the throttle on, you break the axle, you break the drive shaft. And Honda's claiming they've made this thing so durable, you can actually whip the throttle up and land it pinned. So this is interesting to see. They're claiming that the drive shafts and the axles will withstand the abuse that I might be able to give it. So we'll find that one out. That sounds really great. Honda's got the i 4-wheel drive system, and what the i 4-wheel drive system does is it has electronic braking control. So if you have a wheel that's spinning with a limited slip, it applies some brake pressure to the wheel that's spinning and drives pressure to the other one, and it can make it 4 times more energy to the wheel that needs the help and getting you through the rough stuff and the gnarly stuff. I've been kind of crunching the numbers in the suspension, comparing the R and the X and then to the other cars in the market. The R has 20.1 inches of rear wheel travel and has 17.7 on front, which is pretty comparable, not far off even the RZR S. It's a lot wider. Then there's the X model, which is more, it's a 64-inch car, and it seems like it's a little short on travel compared to other cars that are the same width. Its travel is 14.6 front, 15.1 rear. You can look at the Yamaha, for instance, it's the same width, it's 16.2 and 17. The Can-Am is claiming 20 inches on both ends. And these are all claimed. There's some things that come into play when they're doing it. Some of them are measuring suspension travel. Some of them are cheating. They're grabbing some travel from tire squish. Some of it end up being subterranean. I call them that when the frame hits the ground. So there's some testing still to go, but just crunching on the numbers. The R looks like it has competitive numbers. The X looks like it's a little bit short, but it may outhandle everything in the class. That's got to be determined. That's where we are right now. Comparing the wheelbase of different cars, the R is 92.7, the X is 87.6, Yamaha is 90.5, and the Can-Am is 102. For ground clearance, we've got 13 inches on the R model, 12.7 on the X model. I don't think that 0.3 of an inch makes a lot of difference, but they are also adjustable ride height. The springs can be adjusted. And then again, we talked to Honda. They said that the cars would clear 30-inch tires, no problem. So if you want more ground clearance and want to get them up, grab some bigger tires. The stock tires are 28-inch. They're mounted on 15-inch rims. They were developed by Honda with Maxxis. It's a proprietary tire. It's supposed to be a really good tire. Then The rims they went 15 inch, they had a little bit more room for the big brakes that they're using in there, and they just need a little more clearance in there with the stuff they have, big brake rotors and big brakes. So 15 inch, I don't think 14s are gonna fit for you. Suspension is the big difference between the cars. The width of the A-arms and the rear of the A-arms. The X has a 3-link system, which is real similar to the Polaris. And then the R has a 4th link added, which is for durability. It adds a lot of strength. We've seen, you know, all the cars, if you break part of the suspension, then it twists it. So that's going to stop from some damage on a trailing arm, stuff like that. So that's just for strength. The two cars have 2 different shock packages from Fox. They're both called Podiums, 2.5s in the R, 2 on the X. The shock package on the R has crossover spacers, which lets you tune the shock a little bit better. They both have their QS3, which is a 3-position compression adjustment system. It's general, sport, and then aggressive trail riding. Those are your 3 choices. And with that, they claim that it'll do everything it's supposed to do. So we're gonna try jumping the thing off the bridge and see if we live. Tell you later. It's got power steering. They call it sport tuned. The object from them was to give you feedback so you can feel connected to the trail and get good feedback through the wheel. And it's also speed sensitive, so as you increase your speed, it helps you stay connected and feel connected to the trail and lessens a little bit as you go faster. The car does come stock with a roof. Honda's done a lot of engineering with that roof. A couple of things they thought about, and I hadn't even thought much about it, but once they tell you, you're like, dang, well, there you go. They designed the roof so that you can throw on the trailer backwards and it doesn't want to rip the thing off or float it up. So it's got venting, so it's louvered, so it releases the air pressure, so you can have it on the trailer backwards. And then it's got rain gutters all the way around. So it's a pretty well laid out roof. And you got to have one out here in the sun. And I don't know about that rain stuff they're talking about. I've never been there. We're in California, it never rains here. The back of the body behind the doors has some vents, and it's a pretty cool system. They actually engineered, designed those vents to cool the shocks, cool the electronics, and it actually will take some dirt out of that area and blow it right on through. Interior. Sat in the car last night, kind of moved around. Again, haven't driven it yet. I'm 6'4". I'm always cramped in side-by-sides. Got in the Honda, same thing. I could use a couple extra inches of seat moved back. It's just not there. I'll see if I can engineer a way to do it. A 6-foot guy is going to be real comfortable in there, so it's good. And if you're taller like me, 6'4", you just got to cram yourself in there and go. Some of the stuff I liked in the interior, seat sliders work really well. They're like on bearings. I've never seen that in any of the other side-by-sides. I always struggle trying to move the seats around. It had some arm holds in the doors. I think the passenger might like that instead of having to hold on both of them on the T-bar. So you got that. The T-bar itself is pretty cool too. It just has a flip lever like a bicycle wheel. Flip it, slide it back and forth, so it's not just pins and that. Latch it down, solid. So that was an upgrade. Rest of the cockpit, seats had the pass-throughs for the seat harnesses already there. They don't come with seat harness, they've got seat belts, but the pass-throughs are there, so you just grab some harnesses, throw it in. I'm a big fan of getting strapped in real tight, so they did that. Seats seem good, they're bolstered pretty far. You got to go out and drive them for a day to see if you can live with them or if you're going to have to upgrade the seats. Don't know yet, but they seemed a lot nicer than some of the seats I've sat in some of the cars. Car's got cup holders. These seem usable. Some cup holders, I think about the only thing they're good for is throwing the key in when you're parking the car to hide it. But these cup holders were large, and they had these little rubber things like a lot of cars have that you drive in the street to keep stuff from flying out of it. So that seemed good, and like I said, it looks like it'll hold a big coffee cup, bigger than that one there, and that'll be a lot better than what I've seen in most of the cars that I got now. Honda laid out the foot controls and the ergonomics so that you can 2-foot drive. I tend to do that myself. I was happy to see that. They've got it so if you're a single foot driver, you can place a foot. There's a well for you to put your foot on and keep pressure, keep you back in the seat. But it is set up for 2-foot drive, and then they don't restrict you from doing it. The Polaris electronically tries to stop you from 2-foot driving by putting a delay in it, and what they're trying to do is save the belt. We don't have that problem with the Honda, so you're not electronically restricted, so you just hammer down and you can stop and go at the same time, I guess. The passenger side for the foot stuff is pretty cool layout. It's got 2 wells pretty high up so the passenger can push themselves back and hold the seat, but then when you're cruising, they can drop their feet way down and kind of stretch out. So I think that's well thought out and well laid out, and I think that'll be received well. The dash panel, Honda set up, it's in the center, so the co-pilot can do some co-piloting, and when they're trying to tell you you're going way too fast, you're going like 140, you go, no, I'm going 75, quit. A lot of the stuff that I do with side-by-sides is destination stuff, so having cargo capacity is paramount. You know, you've got to have it. The way they laid out the bed, I like it. It's low, so that lets me stack stuff in, put a spare tire on. I'm going to still have vision out the back. They've got tie down and stuff like that, but there's plenty of cargo capacity. It's pretty impressive. The bed has 6 tie down points, and then there's a couple more going up the roll cage to help you keep stuff in there. And there's a whip flag mount on the roll cage, easy to get to. Some of the cars I've worked with, like the Polaris, it's pretty hard to get that whip mount on there, and it takes like 3 people to do it. I think you hold it still and then you spin the car to tighten it. I don't know, it's a pain. Fit and finish, the Japanese quality is always good. The way they do their fasteners, the way they do stuff is always top notch. So I'm anxious to see how that holds up. They told us about durability. One of the things that we saw, the first thing is it comes with a 1-year warranty. I think that's big. And then you can buy additional warranties, another 12, 24, 48 months. That's a 5-year warranty. I don't know what the cost is. We don't even know what the car costs yet, but being able to have a car that they have so much faith in, they're gonna offer a warranty for 5 years, that might drive you there right away. We've seen it, we're waiting around like you are. Now that we know where the R&D facility is, I'm gonna hook up my trailer. I'm gonna see if I can get one out early so we can actually get you an action video with us proving what the car does. They said spring. We're hoping we get a press intro a little early than that. We get something out February. Don't know. We're on hold just like you are. Hey, if you're as excited about the new Honda as we are, you've got to subscribe. You got to follow us. We'll keep you up to date. We'll be testing it before anybody gets their hands on it. Since I now know where R&D is, I'm going to steal one before anybody else does. So I'm going to have some stuff out. But if you don't follow us, if you're not subscribed, you're not going to know that I've been out thrashing this thing. So click on. We'll have a lot of cool stuff between now and when we do get it out there. Stay tuned.